Imagine paying for a dream vacation. Sun, drinks, a pool deck, an ocean breeze, and ending up sleeping on a cardboard mattress on an open deck in 90-degree heat while raw sewage runs down the hallway past your cabin door. No working toilets, no air conditioning, no hot food for 4 days. On a ship the size of a 13-story building, over 890 feet long, drifting powerless in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, with nowhere to go and no way to leave. This actually happened to more than 4,000 real people in February 2013. The world would later call it, bluntly and unforgettably, the Poop Cruise. It became so infamous that Netflix built an entire documentary around it. Trainwreck, Poop Cruise. Today we're going to walk through exactly what happened, why it happened, who was blamed, how much people were paid for their suffering, and what it cost the company to fix the mess. Stay until the end, because the final numbers might surprise you. On February 7, 2013, the Carnival Triumph left Galveston, Texas, on what was supposed to be a routine 4-day, 3-night round trip to Cozumel, Mexico, and back. On board were 3,143 passengers and 1,086 crew, 4,229 people total. The outbound leg was completely normal. Sun, drinks, dancing. Passengers spent a day in Cozumel, shopping and relaxing, before the ship turned around for home. Nobody had any idea the return leg would become one of the most talked about disasters in modern cruise history. At around 5:30 in the morning on February 10, 2013, the final scheduled day of the cruise, a fire broke out in the aft engine room, roughly 150 miles off Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The automatic fire suppression system extinguished the blaze quickly, and no one was physically injured in the fire itself. For about 45 minutes, it looked like a scare and nothing more. Passengers woken by the alarm were told to go back to bed or head to breakfast. But the fire had already done its real damage. It destroyed critical electrical cables in the engine room, and with them went the ship's main power and propulsion. The Triumph was now powerless and adrift. Backup generators supplied only a fraction of normal power, enough for emergency lighting and safety systems, but not nearly enough for air conditioning, refrigeration, or, critically, the plumbing system. Within hours, the situation turned grim. Without power to pump waste off the ship, toilets stopped flushing, and sewage began backing up and overflowing into hallways and stairwells on multiple decks. In the Netflix documentary, cruise director Jen Baxter described walking onto the bridge and instantly realizing the scale of the problem. Interior cabins, without windows, became unbearably hot and increasingly foul-smelling as sewage odors spread through the ventilation shafts. Carnival's crew improvised a survival plan. Passengers were told to urinate in their showers, the only working drain, and to defecate into red biohazard bags, which crew members then had to collect by hand in the heat for days. Baxter later joked that number 1 could go in the shower, but number 2, in her words, was a trickier problem. Refrigeration failed too, spoiling much of the food supply. What could still be served was mostly cold: sandwiches, canned goods, anything that didn't need cooking power. Lines for food stretched for hours. Many passengers abandoned their sweltering cabins and camped on the open decks, sleeping on lounge chairs or cardboard just to breathe fresh air. Because the Triumph had lost propulsion, it had to be towed. The U.S. Coast Guard, including the cutter Vigorous, helped coordinate the emergency response and assisted other vessels bringing food, water, and supplies out to the disabled ship. A tugboat took the Triumph under tow, but progress was painfully slow, so the journey back to shore stretched over several agonizing days. During the wait, passengers on deck spelled out giant messages like "Help" and "SOS" using bed sheets and towels, hoping to catch the attention of passing aircraft and rescue vessels. Images that were later photographed from the air and became some of the most widely shared pictures of the entire ordeal. Carnival redirected the ship not to its original port of Galveston, Texas, but to Mobile, Alabama, which was closer under tow. On the evening of February 14, 2013, nearly 5 days after the fire, the Triumph was finally guided into Mobile Bay by tugboats, greeted by a wall of media cameras. Passengers described a mix of relief, exhaustion, and disbelief as they stepped off, some carrying handmade signs referencing the infamous red biohazard bags. Remarkably, no one was physically injured or killed in the fire itself. The automatic suppression system worked as intended, and the blaze was put out before it could spread or cause direct casualties. The real harm came afterward, from the days-long ordeal of extreme heat, unsanitary conditions, and psychological stress. In the following months, dozens of passengers reported physical symptoms, including gastrointestinal illness, respiratory problems, skin issues, and even hemorrhoids, along with mental health effects such as anxiety, depression, and what several described as lingering PTSD-like symptoms. A group of 33 passengers later filed a lawsuit seeking long-term compensation, citing ongoing medical monitoring needs. As for blame, the subsequent investigation, led by the Bahamas Maritime Authority, since the Triumph was Bahamian flagged, traced the fire to a leak in a fuel oil return line. Leaking fuel had dripped onto a hot engine surface and ignited. What made the incident far more damaging in the eyes of investigators and the public was the discovery that this wasn't a freak, unforeseeable accident. Maintenance records showed multiple prior fuel leaks had already been detected on the same class of equipment, and the generator connected to that fuel line was overdue for scheduled servicing. In plain terms, the fire was preventable, and Carnival's own maintenance practices were found to share responsibility for it. Carnival's CEO at the time publicly apologized for the conditions passengers endured and admitted the company had fallen short of its own standards. In the immediate aftermath, Carnival canceled the Triumph's next 14 scheduled voyages, arranged buses and hotel rooms to get passengers home, and offered every passenger a compensation package: a full refund of the cruise fare, reimbursement of transportation costs to and from the ship, a future cruise credit equal to the value of the trip, and a flat $500 cash payment per person. Many passengers and their attorneys called that offer, especially the $500 cash component, inadequate given what they'd endured. Because cruise ticket contracts typically bar traditional class action lawsuits and require individual arbitration or filing, there was no single mass lawsuit. Instead, individual passengers who felt Carnival's baseline offer wasn't enough hired maritime attorneys and filed separate claims in federal court in Miami. Some sought dramatic sums. One group asked for $5,000 a year for life, citing ongoing medical monitoring, though courts and Carnival strongly pushed back on those claims as excessive. In the end, results varied wildly. The first court-adjudicated group of 27 plaintiffs shared a combined award of just $118,500, and 6 of them received nothing at all. Other passengers settled privately for undisclosed sums, reportedly higher in some cases for those who could document real physical or psychological harm. By 2016, the 3-year maritime statute of limitations had expired, and by around 2018, essentially every claim tied to the Triumph had been settled, dismissed, or closed. As for a typical ticket, a standard 4-night Carnival Caribbean cruise like this one in 2013 typically costs somewhere in the range of $300 to $600 per person for an interior or ocean view cabin, meaning the standalone $500 cash payment alone roughly matched or exceeded what many passengers had originally paid for their cabin, though it obviously did little to address the physical discomfort and health complaints that followed. The Triumph spent 4 months out of service, repaired first in Mobile, Alabama, then at a dry dock in Freeport, Bahamas. Carnival reported spending approximately $115 million on repairs and upgrades, and the ship returned to service on June 13, 2013, departing Galveston on a fully sold-out cruise. Ironically, during the repair period, the disabled ship broke free from its moorings in a windstorm and drifted into another vessel, an incident that tragically killed a shipyard worker, though unrelated to the original fire. Beyond the repair bill, the disaster forced Carnival to rethink fleet-wide safety. Investigators found a design vulnerability in how backup power and fire protection were configured on ships of this era. In response, Carnival ultimately invested more than $500 million across its entire fleet in improved fire prevention and suppression, backup power redundancy, and enhanced emergency protocols. Years later, in 2019, the ship itself underwent a separate $200 million renovation and was renamed Carnival Sunrise, under which name it still sails today. Proof that even a ship once nicknamed after raw sewage can sail on with a brand new identity. The Poop Cruise remains one of the strangest and most human disaster stories in modern travel. No deaths from the fire itself, no dramatic explosion, just days of heat, darkness, and the total collapse of modern convenience aboard a ship built to be a luxury resort. It's a story about what happens when maintenance gets deferred one time too many, and about just how quickly a 5-star vacation can turn into a 5-day survival test.